You send a copy of it afterward?
Yes. Yep, so I can make that recording available in a link, and you'll be able to view that or post it on the website, whatever you need to do.
On a mouse mark?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. I see it.
Yeah, I had it's set really fast, so I was all over the place with it.
There we go.
So we'll give one more minute for Mackenzie Jewett, see if she shows up.
Missing Esther.
Oh, there's
No, she's fine. She let me know. She's not going to be
she's
here. Boston's not going to be here. Episcopal is on her way, but could get jammed up in traffic. I can start a roll call and then we can deal with the excused absences and see if Mackenzie gets here. Let's do roll call. I'm just going to go with the folks I know that are here. Jane Ashworth.
Here.
Larry Albee.
Here.
Kevin Buck.
Here.
Peter Madeira. Here. Mark Good.
here.
Myself, Brett Witham is here. Esther Jacobs and Lawson Wilson let me know that they will not be here. And there are good reasons for that for them. So I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion to excuse Esther and Lawson from the meeting tonight.
Second. Discussion. All in favor? And Jessica Bass may or may not make it. She's traveling. Her father has health issues. So we will see if she gets here. We can deal with that at the end of the meeting.
Somebody going to take minutes?
I don't know who it is. Hi. Can we help you?
I'm just a member of the public.
Oh, okay, good. Well, so we've never had a member of the public at one of our meetings before.
Welcome.
We don't even know, we've had appetizers or something.
Online when I moved to Maine,
So Mackenzie Jewett is not here. I did not hear from her.
She was used from the select board meeting the other night.
Okay.
I believe she was
Maybe she's away.
babysitting.
Huh?
I believe she was babysitting.
Because she may still be big.
Maybe, well, she has a grandchild now, that's right.
If I had her go to the meeting of her grandchild.
Never made grandchild. You know what, let's hold off on any motions for, you know, for not excusing absences for Kenzie and Jessica Bass, and we have a quorum, we can move forward. Let's first look at the minutes from the last meeting.
April, yeah.
April 21st.
It looked fine to me when I looked them over.
Comments, concerns, corrections, none, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April, what was the meeting? April what?
April 21st.
April 21st meeting.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
I have to recuse myself. Because I wasn't-
You know what I mean? Okay, so
James recusing
3,
himself.
4, 5, 0, 1 recusal. And then we can move on to regular business. Planning, and I think at this point, maybe I'll turn it over. Ben, if it makes sense to head into the business portion of the meeting.
Sure, I think that'd be fine. Before we dive right in, I did hear you say, Brett, that Jane and Larry and Kevin are in the room.
Yes.
I think I missed a couple folks though. Is that everybody who's there?
Mr. Peter Madeira, Kevin Buck, Mark Good, and myself.
Got it. Well, thank you. It has been a little while since we connected. I think that April meeting was the last meeting we were certainly a part of. And we've had a couple project calls with Jesse, and we met a few weeks ago by phone with Jesse and Brett. But most of the work we've been doing has been analysis of the census data and the state data pack, and getting work going on the inventory chapters, which it's an important part of the meeting update for today. As some of you know, I know Brett knows that Keith McBride was introduced in April as the project manager for the Tremont comp plan. His last day with North Star was back in June. So I've taken over as project manager for the project for continuity purposes. Since that time, we have hired an additional planner, Logan Capone, who's not online. Sam Ficus is on with us, and she'll be speaking in a little bit about these chapters. But we're back to full strength of the small but mighty 3-person planning organization. So we, in summary, are still on schedule. I think that part of what we wanted to talk about was where we are with the schedule and where we are with the inventory chapters, and getting into already starting to think about public process work. So unless there's any questions, I think that covers 4A, the planning team updates, which we wanted to cover, and we can dive right into the inventory chapter progress.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yep. So I'll turn it over to you, Sam. I'll give you the ability to share from your screen, or I can share from my screen if you want me to. Just let me know. But task 1 in the project schedule is really all about these inventory chapters, taking stock of where the community is today. And that's going to set the foundation for the public participation work that we're quickly moving into in the next month or so. So I will turn it over to Sam, and she can provide an update on where we are with the chapters.
So these first 4 chapters here are ones that we have sent to the town and have gotten feedback on from committee members. Our
Can I
plan.
interrupt you for a second? We're looking at small screen TV, and I can't read those. So if you just say what they are, that would be helpful to me.
Okay. So it's the natural resources, water resources, historic, archaeological, and agriculture and forestry chapters were ones that we sent to the town back in June, and we've received feedback on those, and we're getting ready hopefully by tomorrow to send another batch of chapters. And I think those should be marine resources, economy, population, housing, and recreation.
So essentially, I think our original plan was to write the chapters, identify where the gaps are, and then send specific questions over to Jesse and Brett to kind of be the traffic directors to collect the information so that we can make sure that the chapters are complete per the state checklist and factually correct, which will help set that stage for the public process work. So as Sam mentioned, there's a batch going out tomorrow, and there's going to be another batch in the next couple weeks. We've got good progress on all these chapters. So the original plan was we were going to send specific questions, and that's how we started this work. But based on our last call with Brett and Jesse, I think we're gonna send the chapters as they're drafted with notes on where we're looking for specific information, so people can review the entire chapter and not just look at where we're asking for information. I think that that's going to lead to, number one, a little bit more context for people when they're reviewing the chapters and kind of making some of the decisions about, is this complete and is the information accurate that North Star is putting out there. And secondly, it's going to give everybody a chance to review the chapters. We had a little email exchange, Brett and I did today, about do we want to identify the specific people who are going to be in charge of the internal review for each one of these chapters, or do we just want to make them available to folks? And I think that's a fine approach to make them available. Sam, do you want to talk about how we want to move forward with comments and edits and updates to the chapters once the first drafts are out there?
Yeah, sure. So we've received a few comments so far from committee members, and I think our plan right now is to just basically compile all of those comments together. And then once we've received all comments from committee members on each of the chapters, then just start going back and adding those edits. So I've been received a couple emails from Kevin and Mark through Jesse. And I think if the reviews keep continuing, then we'll get more comments, but it's difficult to, I guess, add comments bit by bit. I think our process is going to be more of just getting all the comments together in one document and then going back through the chapters and making those changes.
Does that process make sense to folks? Do you have a sense of what we're proposing and what we're asking folks to do?
I think so, Ben. I guess I'll describe what I thought we were trying to achieve the last time around. Maybe it changes moving forward, but we got 4 chapters. We got a list of questions. The questions were specific to particular chapters. There were some overall questions. I think the first cut of answers was with the town office and Jesse. Some of it was like data that you just go and look up. And then what we did, Lawson and Jesse and I, we said, okay, we'll take 2 and have teams of 2 because we didn't want 3 to create a meeting, and sent those out with a response date of August 5th for red lines, responses to questions, any proposed changes. And I kind of thought we'd go over them now, but we're not doing that, which is fine. And then just before this meeting, I sent everyone out the original drafts. So those are drafts that there might be feedback from people on the committee to those drafts that you haven't seen because they've gone back, to our consultants here. And so I think what you're saying, though, Ben, this time around is when we get the next batch, which I guess is going to be 5 chapters or 4.
Yeah, it might be 4. We're shooting for 5, but it might be 4 going out tomorrow.
All right. Then we'll just send them out to everyone, and then individually they can send them back to Sam with their comments, and then just pick a date and say this is we're closing the comments on this day, and then they just all get accumulated into one red line that we can see? Or how are we all going to see the feedback so that we know it's different than what you started with?
I think what we're proposing is, I think that approach of picking a couple people to review each chapter is a good one. That's fine to continue that. I think what we were trying to convey is we don't want to have a situation where we're doing these rolling edits where, Jesse sends some comments one week and then Mark sends in some comments the next week and Brett sends in some comments 2 weeks later, where we're just continually updating the chapters. I think we want to kind of get these chapters out to everybody, give you some good time to review them, and then take those comments back and put them in a file so that when we really dig back into these inventory chapters and start doing things like the formatting and the copy editing and more of the getting these things ready for a planning document, that we're making one more round of revisions as opposed to a rolling set up for each one of these chapters.
Yeah, no, we can pick a date when, comments need to be back and. Yeah.
What are the next 4 chapters that are gonna be?
Marine resources, economy, population, demographics, and housing, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Can I ask a question? One thing that, when I was looking over the chapters that I was assigned to look into, I didn't know how deep I needed to go about some things. I had some questions about what you really needed. And should I look further into some of this stuff or go just with my own knowledge? And maybe you can respond to that.
Can I?
Yeah, you can, yeah.
Yeah, I think the inventory chapters are set up. We want to make sure we cover all of the state requirements. And those are pretty well outlined in the templates that we've put together for the chapters. I think if there are specific topics where you may say, this data you have is not correct. Like we have some local knowledge that is at odds with whatever the state provided for, timber harvesting or something like that. That's something we'll want to look into. I think there's also going to be situations where you say, these numbers might be correct when it comes to number of commercial fishing licenses or the employment of people in healthcare and professional services, but maybe there's more to the story because you have some additional information or have heard different things. So I think that those kind of notes are also going to be valuable as we try and tell the story. I think that these chapters, and this is something that Sam and I were reviewing again today, is we really want to be able to tell a story, like understand what this data is telling us about Tremont. And to the best of our ability, we want to make sure that it's complete and correct. And that's really going to set the foundation for that public process work. And Sam, maybe you want to bring up that next tab of what we're trying to get to. The job that these chapters need to do is set a foundation for people to react to. We're trying to get a common set of facts together that people can review and really tell us what that means. So I'll let Sam walk through this a little bit as far as how it's formatted and what some of these are. This is something that I don't expect you to read through right now, but we want to send this out tomorrow along with the next batch of chapters, because this gets to what we're trying to do is be able to say things like, you have issued X number of building permits in Tremont in the last 5 years. Is that a surprising number? Do you think it's too high or too low? Like based on your own experience, are you surprised by how many or how few permits have been issued? And where those permits are located, does that present any community issues? Or the number of people in the volunteer fire department, how have those numbers been trending and what are the implications on that? So I think that we have, at the end of this inventory process, which we're quickly coming to, we're going to have a set of data. And some of that data is going to need some value assigned to that. Like we want to hear from the community. Like, is this a good thing or a bad thing that almost 30% of the workforce in Tremont works from home? They're employed somewhere else, but they're working from home. what does that mean for future infrastructure? What does it mean for services in the community as we're looking at these changes in the labor market? So headlines, surprising facts, interesting trends. Those are the things that we're going to be trying to pull out of these inventory chapters. And that's why I think it's less important right now to focus on the editing and the formatting. It's really, we want to get a sense of what's out there from a factual standpoint so that we can move into this phase. So Sam, maybe you could just kind of walk through this a little bit and explain how you pulled some of these things together. I think our job with the committee over the next few weeks is going to be to help whittle this down. How do we distill this even further into some really key things that we want to share with folks in the next few months?
Yes, so I went through each of the chapters and narrowed it down sort of to a few main bullet points, and this is just based off of mostly facts and things that I found surprising and useful, like for example, maybe like declining water quality in Seal Cove, 25 prehistoric sites. And this is really, like Ben said, it's going to get narrowed down over time. I think ultimately we want to have probably like 2 or 3 bullets per each chapter. But mostly a lot of this info is just factual. So did population increase or decrease? Is the population aging? Is it getting younger? Just those were sort of things that I was looking for. And yeah, as Ben said, we'll be sending this out probably tomorrow as well. But it's really just a start of just getting those key findings down so we can move towards public process and future land use towards the end of next year.
So I think the other thing this does, and then I'll see if there's any questions about kind of this summary of the inventory chapter work so far, is by getting all of these highlights into one place, we're able to start to tie some of these things together. One of the things about these inventory chapters that, you know, for better or for worse, they're very siloed, compartmentalized. Like you look at the economy on its own, you look at public services and facilities, you look at water resources, all of these things on their own. But I think a really interesting part of the work that we're going to be at in the next couple of weeks, and we've started this, is where do we start to tie those together so that we start to see the relationship between some of the housing trends and the population trends. We start to see ties between water resources in the economy, for example, or we start to see ties between economy and population. So I think those are going to be how we present some things to the public. And as far as, you know, what are the facts? Here's what we are finding as far as some key characteristics or interesting information about Tremont, and just have people react to that from a standpoint of, you know, did you know that, you know, and then present some facts and say, what does that mean? Is that a good thing or a bad thing, or is that anything that the town has control over in the next 10 to 15 years? So that's how we're shaping up with the inventory chapter work and this document. I know you're seeing this for the first time, and you might have some more comments after you have a chance to digest this once we get it to your inboxes tomorrow. But I wanted to talk about what this is and how we're going to use it, and then that context might make it useful as we go through the inventory chapters, as you go through the inventory chapters, and we start thinking about how we want to present this to folks. Any questions on where we are with the chapters or this summary at this point?
So Ben, you're gonna send this document, which we're looking at for the first time on the screen,
Yep.
undigested. You're not gonna winnow it down.
I would be very interested in seeing if there were any initial comments before we get too far into the winnowing down and focusing on, maybe the 2 or 3 bullet points for each one of these chapters. I'd be interested to see if there was any thoughts from the committee on what the most important points are. As someone who's just looking at the data, Sam has started here, and Sam and I could kind of go through this together, and we'll certainly have some thoughts on that as we go forward. But I think in this relatively raw state, it's good to, number one, provide you an update on our process and how we're going to be getting ready for the public meetings that we're going to be going into this fall. Number one, but also number two, to get your take on some of this information. Based on the mapping and based on our quick drive through of Tremont last April, there are no sidewalks or bicycle lanes along 102. If we hear from the committee that that is a major issue, we're going to want to carry that forward so that the community has a chance to react to that and tell us what that means. Is that really an issue, or is that fine based on the location of housing and commuter patterns in town? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think, we could try and save you some work by shaving this down, from a 4-page document to maybe a 2-page document. But I think you might find it interesting or benefit from some of the broader list of topics that we're going to be reviewing.
I'd rather see more. I'd rather see it in that form than winnowed down, because we've got significant local knowledge sitting around this table, and I think we'll all have different ideas, but we can probably help get it down to 3 bullet points or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that.
I have a comment. I'm a little disappointed that we can't work on it while we're here. Can't even see it. So, I guess the way we're going to run this is we're going to get the stuff at home and our homework and do it that way, and then write you comments. I mean, I'm kind of old school, but we're all here. We can comment on it now if we could see it.
Yep. Well, I'm happy to, we could try and get this screen a little bigger. I'm not sure what kind of screen you're viewing it on. If Brett wants to spend some time doing that, our thought here, I won't put words in Brett's mouth, but our thought was trying to efficiently use the time we have together to discuss some of the, things like approach and higher level questions and scheduling, and then saving kind of the detail work where you might want to spend some more time with it on your own. That said, I'm happy to spend a little time. We can kind of go through some of these now if you want to, Brett, or we can circle back to it after we get through some of the other agenda items.
I'm ambivalent.
I think there's how many categories do we have? 6?
Yeah, for each chapter.
Yeah. I appreciate what Larry said, but I'm not sure. I think I'd rather look at it on a piece of paper at home and noodle it a little bit, and then maybe come back together to share our thoughts.
I'm with Pete on that, and Larry has a good point. I understand that totally, but I'd like to see it on paper in front of me and go through it first.
Yeah.
Even older school.
Well, being half blind,
I like paper.
I do too. I really do. And I hope we get back to having packets prepared for these meetings.
I guess my recommendation, Brett, would be that we finish the agenda, and if we have time,
Circle
go
back.
back and maybe do one of these as a group.
Okay. Or-
They could
That
exercise.
sounds good to me.
I'm totally open to that. So that is really what we wanted to share about the inventory chapters, is that we're making good progress, and even though we haven't sent over all the chapters, we're already thinking about some of those headline level views. So that said, I'm going to bring up a schedule. I'll make this as viewable as possible here. So this is the schedule overall. Can you guys
Have
see
that
that?
on paper in front of us,
Yeah, we got
just without the pretty colors.
Yep, good.
In the dark.
So what we've added is essentially this is task one, all the inventory work that we're doing. We added one more month to get through August with the inventory chapters. And this is based on a conversation we had earlier in the month with Jesse and Brett. I think the key thing I wanted to highlight here was the original scope of the project was going to rely on an in-person meeting in January to talk about future land use. So we were going to get together, maybe in that room you're in or some other place in town, have some online components that would go with it, either live or recorded, that we could put up after the event, and basically have a workshop with some free time for people to walk around, look at some maps, and have a couple presentation type activities where it's a little more structured. And in our conversations, we talk about the value of being able to do something before January, because the community profile changes a lot between summer and winter. And there's a lot of folks in town now who might not be around in January. And so we added a line here. We were going to be relying on some online videos and short surveys and one-page hard copies of the surveys that would be available at the town office and the library, maybe a few other locations in town. So we're shifting our thinking from that kind of a lighter touch online, mostly, to think about values and visioning, the future of the community. What are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, threats, kind of thing, if you guys have been through those kinds of discussions. I think the survey that you guys had put together earlier touched on some of those things. So in light of the comments, we really decided that it makes sense to try and do something in person in Tremont, give people a chance to come together around some of the values, we call it visioning and values work, about looking ahead. What are the, and the inventory chapter, this is the connection between inventory work in task one and the visioning in task two, is that we want to have a really good set of materials put together that can be put on the website, that can be part of a PowerPoint presentation, can be used in handouts. They're going to show some of these key things that we talked about. We saw the start of that on Sam's 4-page bulleted list that I really aim to get down to maybe 10 or 15 PowerPoint slides that we can use as the foundation to kind of walk people through a little bit of a profile of Tremont from a data standpoint, and then merge that with the broader community perspective. And have a conversation about what that means. What does it mean to live in Tremont at a time when we are faced with the changing workforce, or the water quality issues, or the shrinking fire department, those kinds of things. Being able to like call out some specific things from the inventory chapter so that you're not just, as valuable as it is to say, you know, what are the best things about living in Tremont? What could be better? Having a much sharper focus on things for people to react to, and think about what kind of place Tremont might be, or do they want it to be in light of the realities of the data and some of the things that we hope to share with folks as we prepare that over the next several weeks. So that is the broader goal of that workshop that we hope to schedule end of September, early October timeframe. And that's the first thing I wanted to check in with folks about is, you know, based on our conversation and based on kind of a internal team meeting with the folks at the Musson Group in Southwest Harbor, how late in the year would we be able to run a meeting and still feel confident that we were, you know, able to reach a good number of people who are seasonal or consider themselves seasonal residents of town. I think trying to do something before Labor Day would be tough logistically. And the feedback that I've heard so far is that doing something after Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day would be missing the boat. It would be too late in the year. So I think we're really looking at that window between Labor Day and Indigenous Peoples Day, late September, mid-October. And I wanted to see if folks felt like that was an appropriate timing for adding in a live event, kind of a half day.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
The first or the third or last week of September would be good.
Okay.
In the middle of the week?
Yeah, we want to avoid weekends, and we wanted to probably not a Friday evening, but I think, you know, Monday through Thursday evenings are all free game. The way we're thinking about this is that it would be a workshop, kind of meaning there'd be some presentation, but also some free time for people to kind of stop by for a coffee, walk around. So if you want to pop in for 10 minutes and look at a couple maps, or if you want to stick around for an hour and get into a conversation with someone on the planning team or someone on the committee, just have some less structured opportunities to do that, but also have a chance to go through the, you know, kind of what we've learned materials and react to that in a more structured way. So it would probably, we wanted to have some time in the afternoon into the evening. Sometimes I've seen these things run from like 8 in the morning till 5 o'clock at night. I think this would probably be like maybe a mid-afternoon to 7 or 8 o'clock kind of thing, with some, you know, food on the table. People could kind of munch while they're there. It's like, stay as long as you want, but we'd probably have maybe an hour, hour and a half of structured work at least once during that time. So there's no agenda set yet for that, but the agenda would involve a presentation of the, you know, what we've learned, materials, highlights of the inventory, and some structured opportunities for people to provide input. So it would be, you know, some, you know, post-it notes and dots kind of exercises, but I think it would also be something a little more concrete as well. There's different techniques that we can work into that, but that's the idea for that event coming up. Sounds like maybe last week of September. I heard a couple comments.
Yeah, I think last week of September or early October. There's a lot of things going on the weekends then, but, you know, so
Yes.
might be here for that. during the week for the weekend stuff. The Oktoberfest, which is over in Tremont this year.
So I guess that's the next question is, we were presuming that we wanted to stay away from the weekends because people
Yeah.
have
I mean,
plans. but-
people might be here for that during the week for that.
Yeah, I mean, if there happened to be an event or a food truck thing or a fall festival or something we could piggyback on, that might be a good opportunity. But otherwise, I would say let's try and stay away from the weekends.
How do you propose to get the word out so that people attend?
I think what we generally do, and you can help think about this, is social media. We often will work with communities to get something in the newspaper. We'll get something on select board agendas and planning board agendas so people have a chance to talk about this in more official capacities, not just what they see on Facebook, but certainly I think social media is part of that. We would work to get some 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17 flyers that could be put up in locations like the town office, the library, maybe the store right next to the town office would be, other visible places that the folks would come and go and maybe see basically a flyer for that.
And would this workshop be centered on certain issues?
I think it would be more broad than specific. I don't think it would be centered on specific issues, but I do think over the course of the day, it would be good to pose certain questions like some of the examples I'd used earlier in the conversation where it had to do with, hey, the population is relatively flat, but we're still building homes in Tremont, and the number of people in each one of these homes is getting smaller over time. What are the implications of that going to be for land use, and what are the implications going to be on community? Are those being built, or is there a conversion of units to rentals or short-term rentals, and how does that impact the community? So I think that within the inventory chapter framework, we want to ask some specific questions, and that's essentially trying to get from that 4-page list down to maybe a 10 or 12 PowerPoint long chance for people to react to. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, basically, yes. This is gonna be like at the end of September. That's like a month away.
I think we should-
It's like 6
Figure out what we're
weeks,
doing.
5 weeks.
Well, 5 weeks, month and a week. How's that?
Yep.
I would suggest we get the community center and use that instead of here. It's a bigger facility. And but we need some notice to let the school know that and clear it with them first, I would think.
And in a day when there isn't anything going on.
Yeah, when there's anything going on, right, exactly.
We don't want
Is the community
committee or
center part of the school? Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
that's true too, yeah.
Do you
I'm
think
sorry, I missed that last comment.
turnout to warrant
It might happen.
Pete, I don't know. That's a good question. The last time we decided, and the other thing, the only other reason I suggest that, some of us are wearing masks and probably we all should be, okay? We can space out a little bit more over there if we do get a crowd, but maybe.
this room, yeah, the masking issue is the question, I suppose.
I'm just throwing that out there.
No, I think you're.
If you remember when we were gonna do this originally
Oh, I know.
with Jared, okay? I arranged with the principal to use that building over there, and we're gonna do that. And
Yeah.
I sent out some press releases and that sort of thing, and then we had to quash the whole thing because of COVID. So,
Right.
Is there a sense that maybe we should do this online, or is there a
No.
sense that it should be in person, and then we'll just try and take some precautions and kind of monitor the public health situation and maybe make adjustments if we need to.
I mean, we could say, you know, your masking is I suppose we could require it.
No, we.
I don't think we can require it. No, that's the
That's what
thing.
everybody else has recommended. but-
And I'm wondering if we could do this for the public that's here, but maybe have an online session for those that are already gone by the end of September.
Yeah.
The year-round, the summer residents that leave in late September.
I do think it's important to have key portions of this be available online, not only for people who either don't feel comfortable attending, or maybe they've already left town for the winter, but also just to give people another chance to review the materials, or take, maybe they didn't take the survey or those few quick questions we want to offer ahead of time. If we have them online, people can be able to go back and take that, view things at their convenience. I don't think we're going to be advocating to, have a full live stream of a 4-hour open house, but I think maybe a portion of maybe 20 minutes of the live presentation, kind of here's what we are presenting, and then have a form that people can fill out online, or make it available as a hard copy if you want to as well. I am sensitive to the, every community is kind of moving at their own pace as far as getting back to in-person meetings. And I know that there's a group of you in the room, and some places aren't doing that yet. And doing something in person like this is, not where everyone is. So my sense was, after speaking with Brett and Jesse, that this could work. I think taking components of it online would be the plan B if something drastically changes between now and then. But regardless, there's definitely going to be online components to it either way.
Would you have different areas when this was, we talked about this with the chair, and it had separate tables being set up with, topic areas at each table. But it doesn't sound like what you're proposing is that same idea.
It could be. I've done those kinds of things. I would say I want to try and keep this introduction relatively high level to the community. This isn't going to be drilling into the specifics of okay, does our next fire station need to have 3 bays or 5 bays? And it doesn't need to get to the specifics of water quality analysis when it comes to coastal waters. But I think that we want to just present some high level information, and I've done it by topic, where you have over there is the natural resources table, over here is the built environment table. But I think we want to just have a little bit higher level, meaning we will talk about some of the data and some of what we're finding. But I also want to give people a chance to say, here's what I love about Tremont, or here's my big idea for what we need to do in the next 10 years, or those kinds of things that give people a chance to engage at a high level. And this might help as well. This event we're talking about in January is going to be much more focused on some land use scenarios. So that's, I think, where we're going to drill down a lot more into having specific things that people can react to that will be based on the vision statement that we're going to be developing. Part of this workshop is to understand how people feel about the town and how they feel about the town relative to the data that we're going to be presenting, and making sure that we have a full picture of what that information is that we need to consider in developing a vision statement, and then the policies and goals that are going to come later to help implement that. So long way around the question of we haven't decided if we want to have kind of topical stations set up in different corners of the room. I kind of like the idea of self-service activities. So if people want to wander around and look at tables and talk with people for an hour, they can do that, or they can make a zoom around the room while they eat a cookie or something, and then get on with the rest of their day. So we can think more about that. I don't know if you have any thoughts at this point, but I could circulate a draft program for the day when we get another couple weeks into the future here, as we get closer to the event itself.
Go ahead.
How many public meetings are you planning? I was trying to go through the list. I can't tell which ones. Is it?
Yeah, at this point, with the addition of that task 2A that we've been talking about, the second one would be the future land use scenarios. And then the third would be to review the draft plan itself. So this process is going to involve those, we're planning on going to Tremont those 3 times right now, between now and the end of the drafting process in the April-May timeframe. And there's going to be a number of online opportunities as well that people will have a more persistent. So if you can't make this event and you can't make the one in January, we want to be able to at least try and replicate to the extent we can how we're presenting info and giving people the chance to provide feedback. But the short answer to your question is 3 more times. One at this very high level visioning and values stage. The next one is really a much more hands-on, reviewing land use scenarios that implement in different ways the values and visions. And we want to give people a chance to tell us, the things they like about some scenarios and other scenarios in comparison. We can talk more about that tonight or at the next meeting. And then presenting the draft plan and being there to hear from people directly about, whether we're on the right track or where we need to spend a little more time before it goes to the town for adoption.
So this first meeting would basically be priming the pump, getting people to think about what they're looking for and point them towards opportunities they have to comment on what they think their vision for the town should be.
Yes, I think that's a good way to think about it.
Laying out the process.
Yeah, and giving them a kick to start.
Right. Ben, one thing that I've observed is there's a certain amount, if not a good deal amount, of confusion about what the role of this committee is. And people, as recently as about 3 hours ago, when they found out I was coming to this meeting, they said, "Oh, you're going to solve the problem of the Airbnb infestation we have." And I said, "No, we're going to document it, but that's the step after. This committee has no role in rewriting ordinances." And I hope if you're going to be the facilitator for that first public meeting, I think it's important to lay out, what the state says about why we're doing this and what the background is.
What the role of the comprehensive
What the role of
plan
the comprehensive plan committee is, because people are confused. I mean, people that have lived here for generations are confused about it.
Well, you're talking about what the role of the comprehensive plan is. when it's
Right.
done,
Right.
Not the committee. We just,
We're putting the plan together, but
right.
but we need everybody's help. But I think it's important to set the stage.
I don't think people realize how much they have control anyway.
Yeah.
being a selectman, I hear
Yeah, I
a
mean,
few complaints on occasion. And one of them, you know, and a lot of them revolve around the land use ordinance.
Right.
And people don't understand, that's not us or the planning board writing it. This is approved at town meeting.
Right.
This is the people's land use ordinance. Comprehensive plans the same way, and they need to understand that.
Yeah.
We're not writing something and shoving it down their throats. We're writing something, presenting it to them for their approval.
With their input.
I think that's a good reminder. This is likely the meeting we're talking about that last week of September would be the first time. Maybe a lot of people have heard about it, or the first time they've really engaged with it. So kind of that, you know, getting back to basics before we jump right into, you know, kind of the analysis of public facilities and services is really valuable.
I think a lot of people know about it. I think they have a lot of high expectations.
Yeah.
That's what I think has to be, just because of what's been happening the last year or two.
Got it.
You're talking about.
Yeah.
Planning board doobies.
Could we set a date or a potential date for this, right?
I would love to have that conversation. I was looking at the town calendar, and is there a potential planning board meeting that week?
Planning board meetings will be Tuesdays, and that would be where's the thing?
Over there.
September 12th.
Second and
This is
September. Planning board is what? The 13th and 27th.
Yep.
Be a harbor committee meeting on the 29th.
We have a meeting
Selectmen
on
on
the
the
22nd.
19th. And what?
Our meeting's the 22nd.
Our meeting.
This meeting, we usually have the third Thursday.
No,
of the
that's,
month, right?
that's a Thursday. Yep, you're right. That would be the 27th. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we look at that week of the 26th, that's the fourth week. So I think I heard people say that there could be a planning board meeting on the 27th,
Yeah.
that Tuesday,
There's a meeting on the 29th.
and the 29th too. So we'd be looking at either at a Monday or a Wednesday evening, the 26th or the 28th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Friday's good.
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so either, but you're just asking.
That's the weekend of October. No, that's not the weekend of October.
No,
October
it's-
5th.
Following one, right?
So that would be the week after that, isn't it, on Columbus Indigenous Peoples' Day?
Yeah.
Yeah, the week of October 3rd is the week after that. That's a normal, no holiday. week.
There's nothing that week except for selectmen on Monday the 3rd.
So there is more openings that week.
Yeah.
And that would give us another week or get things together, you know how.
Okay.
The select board meets on Monday, the 3rd.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But the rest of the week is free.
Be a good week to do it.
Yeah.
'Cause I mean, there's all these other meetings going on. People are gonna, you know, that are involved in town stuff. They're gonna say, I've already been out once tonight, once this week.
That's all I can handle. Yeah.
So I've got the 26th, the 28th, or October 4th, 5th, or 6th. And any of those nights can work for our team. Is the thing to do to kind of confirm that with Jesse and get a sense of if there's any other items on the official calendar, or the school calendar, or other things that we need to work around?
I think we could set a date, and if something comes up, look at changing it. I think we'd be better off setting a date tonight if we can.
I like the Tuesday of that week, you know, the 4th,
The 4th.
basically, because I don't have anything else on my calendar. It's also not Friday, and it's not Monday.
And if something comes up.
Pretty sure, Pete.
And it's not Wednesday or Thursday or.
All right. So I'll make a note that that's the first choice of the committee, October 4th. And I do want to check on the schedules of Noel and Suzanne at the Mussing Group. So I think we can probably get that nailed down in the next few days. I don't know if I can definitively say we'll have it nailed down tomorrow, but I think by early next week, we'll have a sense of when we can start promoting that.
And the location at the school?
Yeah.
Well, if you guys, yeah, we can check and see if that date's available at the
That's
school.
what I'm
I
thinking.
can call
We gotta
Jan.
make sure.
I can bring a pen.
This
with
room's
me.
not going to get overflowed with that meeting.
Well,
I mean, I understand the space, but
You know, it'd be too bad to have all this effort go in and then be scattered around that community room and, you know, have 10 people.
well,
Show
that's
up.
true too. What happens if like 50 people show up here?
Yeah. And that was going to be a question I was going to ask Noel, who has been doing a number of meetings on the island. And it pre-COVID, I've been to meetings where, you know, you fill a gym and you have, you know, 50 to 70 people come to a thing like this for at least a little bit. I've been to a couple of these we've tried to run, or I should say we have run this summer. And, you know, as a standalone event, we've, you know, maybe got 15 people. So I wanted to see if there was a sense, just based on the past participation or level of interest in the community, that might be informative of the, you know, the venue itself. Do we need a giant room, or would that room work?
I could say at our annual town meeting, which is probably the biggest meetings that we have all year. This year, there were less than 60. I think it was like 50 people showed up, 50 some people.
yeah, maybe.
Maybe. In the past, we've had maybe as many as 70
in this room.
in this room, yeah. I mean, a long time ago, when we had it over there, more people would show up, but in recent history, it's been less than 70.
I think a high number for something like this would be 30.
It'd be real high.
That'd be high.
So we could
I
use
think
this
we could do
room
this room.
unless we need to spread
Use
out
that
more
counter a
and
little bit.
what he's gonna set up. Part of it depends, to me, part of it depends on whether you're gonna do separate stations or not.
Let's don't do stations. Let's try to do an informal open house type of thing, you know.
I think we could, you know, in lieu of a, you know, station where you got a table and some maps and there's a volunteer or someone on the planning team kind of just manning that station. We've also done things where we've put materials either at a table or up on the wall and let people wander around, just kind of have people on the planning team nearby that could answer questions or help people with, you know, logistical questions, or like, gee, I really want to weigh in on this issue around natural resources, but, you know, do I put a dot on this map, or do I just write on the map, or how do I do that? So I think we could have it less structured, right? And I think that at an early stage like this, having a little more flexibility within the framework of the event itself can be a good thing. You know, obviously don't want to have people come in and say, what the heck am I doing? And how do I interact with these materials? And who do I talk to? But once you get some of those basics out of the way, just, you know, giving people a little space to look at things on their own or talk with their neighbors, talk with you folks on the committee as, you know, trusted members of the community. I think that that's a big part of what these meetings are about, as much as, you know, the information we get back
And
specifically.
I kind of like that scenario you painted there with, you know, some materials up on the wall and those of us that can be there available to answer questions.
But this room has very little walls.
I think we can put easels up though.
Okay.
We got the main map over there already.
Yeah.
No,
Zoning
I
map, yeah.
agree with Pete. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
So you think we should go here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
To make it simpler.
Yeah, and then the masking issue, I think we should have a stack of masks available if somebody comes in and not comfortable and forgot their mask.
We have for, usually for the selectmen's meeting,
Yeah.
everything, they have a box on
They're right
it.
over there.
Yeah.
We can put a sign up, they have signed up.
And this is gonna start at what time are you saying? Late afternoon or?
Yeah, I don't have a specific time in mind, but I think one option would be to have it be like late morning through the end of the workday. People could stop by during lunch or on their way home, maybe have it go till 6 o'clock. The other one would be a little bit later of a start and go, till 7 or 8 in the evening.
I say an evening meeting.
Yeah.
People are going to take time off from their lunch to go do that.
No.
Most people in town don't work here anyway.
Right.
That's true
Yeah.
too, yeah.
Yeah.
It says that in your data there.
That's right.
I think we could do something like 4 to 7 or something like that.
Yeah,
And
I
that would.
don't know about 4, a lot of people get out of work at 3:30 or so.
Well,
and
you've got people like me who are retired.
When
we can show up anytime, Pete.
We can.
when do kids get out of school? Because maybe parents
3.
would want to pick their kids up at school and come over and do that and then go home.
3.
Okay, it depends on what school you're talking about, high school or,
Fremont.
well, the
Fremont.
elementary school, but a lot of parents have kids at the high school too.
Well,
So
The high school.
They don't have
kids are
high
making
school's
time.
there, so it's gonna 2:30, I think the high school gets out, but the teachers aren't gonna leave till after 3 or so.
So if we started at 3,
Yeah.
went to 7, is that too long?
I'm all for 5:30 or 6, but
It sounds like the key time would be that, 5 to 7 timeframe, but I think it would be valuable to be there earlier, at maybe 3 o'clock till 7. Just again, to give people some options to swing by at a time that works for them. So we can
so
nail
it's
that.
4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and over that time, that would give us a chance to run our presentation maybe a couple times. Again, I think the actual agenda for the day will be developed, but I think, having a preference for when we want to run it, having the venue settled, and having that general time frame of like mid to late afternoon through early evening, whether it's 3 to 7 or 4 to 7:30 or something like that, makes good sense. And it's good to have some of those parameters settled. So thank you. Let me bring up the agenda. So we had discussed the idea, Brett and I, of a September meeting that would be a chance to go over the bulleted list of things that we want to key in on as far as information to share with the community, and something that would be a chance to kind of handle some of the more specific logistics related to an event at the end of the month. So I had suggested a September 15th meeting. Today is the 3rd Thursday, and the 3rd Thursday of September is the 15th. So that's how I put that on there. If that makes sense to folks, just as kind of a standing meeting, I think the timing of it would be good as far as being, at that point, maybe a couple weeks ahead of the venue itself, and be a chance to talk about what people are hearing. Are there other ways we need to promote the event, and talk a little bit more about the specific agenda itself?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
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 and 5:30 works for folks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
should probably make a motion, yeah.
Okay, I move that our next meeting be September 15th at 5:30 PM.
Second.
All in favor? There we go.
Now, you won't be attending the meeting, and you will be doing a Zoom thing again?
Yeah, I think that what we are hoping to do is have these check-ins through the winter, just kind of the regular committee meetings happen this way, and focus the being in Tremont at those 3 key points in the planning process.
And maybe the selectmen can work on getting us a bigger TV.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say, I think we could do that.
We can borrow a projector from my church and project it on the screen.
Well, the other.
We have a
option-
projector here, but
Yeah,
it didn't work. Jesse, I only talked to him briefly. He was rushing out some of his ability, and that's why he ended up with this
Okay,
system.
he said he would get the projector to work. I know it works in April. But yeah, I can appreciate that the TV screen is probably not going to be viewable for folks in the back of the room, or even, where you guys are sitting for a bunch of
TVs
stuff.
are cheap. They're not expensive. they're cheap.
That's true.
You know,
They get a 52
the other
inch
option
up there.
is the library has an 80-inch TV now. The
Oh,
problem is that they're open till 8 on Thursday nights. So we'd have to change the date if we were gonna.
Just take home.
80
It's a town, it's a town.
Yeah.
Can we check out the TV?
Yeah, I was wondering, kid,
Well,
that's a
I
big
don't-
TV to move.
You don't want to carry that thing. I helped install it.
I don't know if
It's
the old
very
80 probably gets real broken up, doesn't it?
I don't know. Some of them are really good.
Yeah, this one's pretty good.
52 inch, wait.
Yeah, but they're,
Well, look,
you're
we'll
talking
solve
a
the
few
TV
hundred bucks.
issue
No.
here.
No.
Yeah,
They're wall right now.
Don't carry a wallet.
I've got a pretty good degree of confidence that the
Well, you're that wealthy.
projector should work, but some of those other options sound fine as well. So that's really the end of the agenda that we had put together for the meeting this evening. And I know that people are anxious to see the next batch of chapters and that bulleted list of highlights. So I'll turn it back over to Brett to see if we wanted to wrap up at this point, or if people wanted to spend another few minutes taking a look at the sheet that Sam had pulled up earlier.
I'm trying to go see my grandchild in Massachusetts.
Tonight?
That's a.
Meeting after this meeting.
Okay.
Oh, you do have a grandchild. We were talking about it before.
I have 2
You're gonna
grandchildren.
drive to Massachusetts after this meeting?
Yes.
And we're done.
We're
Their
done.
father's getting surgery in the morning,
Well,
so we have to
yeah,
be
you
there.
I was gonna say, maybe by the time we have a next meeting, we could have a little larger screen too.
Well, we can bring our computers and. Right.
And
you
we
know,
bring our own
and see all
computers, I
that.
suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I want the big screen too, but I think I'm gonna bring my computer. I don't print everything out.
Yeah, I think you'll have to kill the mics on the last
Motion to
one.
adjourn.
Which one?
That's easy.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn at,
Do we want to adjourn? Do we want to address Jessica and?
oh, yeah, good point. We can circle back to it.
Jessica called and that's excuse us.
Right.
I'll make a motion to excuse Jessica Bass.
Okay.
What are you gonna?
Mackenzie, she didn't call, let you know?
I didn't hear from her.
Okay, a motion not to excuse Mackenzie in this case.
I'm not gonna touch a second on that one.
Yeah, right. I'll second it.
There you go. It's the rules. It's the bylaws. Sorry.
Favor?
Opposed? Did somebody oppose?
I'm not gonna vote.
Not voting.
That's a tough, but it did pass. Passed.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Maybe we can be silent on who voted on that.
We're,
I mean,
we're silent on who voted.
Yeah, it's been a while since we met and
Yeah.
but she's definitely on the email, so I don't know what's going on, but, okay.
I can't tell you, if my phone had reminded me, I would have forgotten it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So, motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 44?
Now,
48. That clock's wrong always, huh? 6:48.
Second. All in favor? Thank you, Ben.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch soon.
And then-